Now that we've theoretically discussed the meaning of light temperature, let's try to look at the world the way Lord Kelvin would have looked at the world, which means very specifically as far as measuring the electromagnetic spectrum and light waves, which is what our camera does, because our cameras don't have rods, cones, retinas, and the miracle of our eye to adjust light temperatures from going interior to exterior and balancing everything out so it's relatively normal. No, it's going to be very specific and literal about what it sees, and it's going to have us make the adjustment to what we want to see. So here we have a camera. It's outside. It's adjusting to the 5600 color temperature of the sun, so everything looks similar to what we'd see because we've adjusted our eyes like that. But if we have been shooting indoors and everything's a little more orange because it's tungsten, we're heating metal, we're not the gaseous sun that's heating up, we're heating metal, and it's a little orange or redder, and then suddenly we go outside, well, everything's going to look blue. These two gentlemen are suddenly going to turn blue because our color temperature at 3200, around orange spectrum, is trying to compensate for the sudden change it's making by shooting up to the blue spectrum, and everything's going to seem blue. Here's an example of the array or the range of color temperatures, and what we really see would be probably around the temperature of the 5000 Kelvin. But if we took a camera from inside going outside, it would be the 3000. If we went outside inside, it would be 7000. But what happens is how that color temperature is adjusted is something we can do. The camera doesn't need to do it. We can do it. So if we want the outside to look richer, more yellow, well, we dial up the color temperature. If we want it to seem colder, we dial it down. So here we can see an example of someone doing this indoors. They've got the blue indoors, which tells us that they've probably wanted it colder. They're trying to dial up to the 5600 range because of what they want, but normal eyes would see it more towards the right in a warmer range. And then below, when it looks orangish, it's because they want to heat up things, make it look more intense and passionate. And of course, the normal would be what the woman looks like on the right. So normal vision, you can see it's all right, but the blue and the orange gives us much more of a mood. Similar here with this woman. We can go to the left side where she's colder, or the right side where she's warmer. And all we're doing is going 5600 or 3200 on the color temperature range, as is we are doing with this woman, where she looks warmer, more friendly on the left side with the 3200. But if we wanted to cool her off, make her look a little more imposing and intellectual, we go to the right side and dial it up to 5600. Same thing in this room here. In our cameras, remember, our cameras aren't going to be able to adjust, so you're not going to have the problem this gentleman had when you go inside this room, which everything looks gold and orange and yellowish. It looks nostalgic and rich. It actually looks richer, which is wonderful. This might be what we want. We want a nostalgic picture. But you can't do that, unfortunately, with your smartphones because it's going to adjust to the way you see it in the right side. It's going to make it look more normal in its own little technological way, which means it's going to cool it off. It's not going to give us the mood we want. So in a way, it's going to wash it out for us, and that's going to be the problem with shooting on the smartphone. But we'll be able to adjust when we talk more about how to shape the light in the next lecture. Here, we can do things with filters on cameras where we can take a woman who's looking a little washed out and pale on the left side, and we can enrich her on the right side by putting maybe amber gel or orange gel over the light, so suddenly we deepen her skin tone towards a 3200 level. And I've given you a quick inside camera look at the charge coupled device where it's broken out into three major colors: red, blue, green. That's a camera's primary colors. And the reason why it does that, because you mix all those colors together and you get white, but if you separate them, you get the different combinations we can have in a color picture. What's important here, however, is when you figure color temperatures for different lights, you can figure, hey, if I'm seeing what looks like white to me, my camera probably isn't. It's probably seeing what the light emitters is emitting. So if it's a certain color, you need to take its composite color and balance it off to make white. For example, you see green mixed with magenta is what? White. So what would we do is, if we have a neon light, that's 4200, Kelvin, which is green. So in order to balance it out, you just saw with magenta, well, we take a purple gel and we put it over that neon light, and it would become then regular white or normalized light. So we do this all the time. If we have to adjust something that's too blue, we put an orange gel on it. Something that's too orange, we put a blue gel on it. It all balances out to our normal white. Here we have a room that's a little greenish, so perhaps this is neon light. So what we want to do, if we want to make it normal, we put the blue or the purple gel on, but maybe we don't want it that way. Maybe we want an atmospheric light. Here in the kitchen, we see that it's cooler, so maybe this is up there, who knows, in the neon, upper neon region. Maybe it's 4,800, 4,500 degrees Kelvin, and that gives us a very modernistic, cooler light, maybe more sci-fi, but then we want to dial it down and we say, okay, I want a little creepier, I want a little darker. And so I'll maybe put it down to 4,000 Kelvin. It's cool, but it's a little warm tinge too, but it's a little spooky. However, if I want to make it more familiar, more warm, I go down to the red zone, and maybe I'm 2,800 here. And it's richer, it's more friendly in its aspect, and you can play with it. And that's what's great about being a lighting technician on the set. You get to play with the mood, which, like I say, we won't be able to do with our smartphones, but remember, we can probably play with ways of attaining this. Like this room is not what we're going to get on our smartphones. This is kind of a rich, warm tone. What we're going to get on our smartphones is going to be cooler because it's trying to make it balanced and not worrying about mood. So remember, this chart, you can look it up too online, but you could just see that if I've got sunlight and I really want to balance it, it's just way too much on the sunlight end, and I add red. I put a red gel over my 5600 light, I get white. Or if I've got I'm inside with a tungsten metallic filament heating up, which isn't like a gas like an HMI, like the color temperature of the sun, but a metallic rod heating up. I'm going to want to cool it off, and so I'll put blue on there and to get my white light. And here are 4 examples of, again, different ways of achieving what we want. Here on the upper left, this might be a little creepier, more horror-oriented. It's dimmer, more shadowy, more in that range of, I'd say, neon hell. Whereas on the right, upper right corner, we got a little more gold going on here. So it's warmer, but it's not too warm. It's more metallic warm. It's kind of like riches and class and polish. Whereas the lower left, suddenly we're going to the deep richness, which is again more nostalgic, richer, more human, more feeling, more emotive. And the lower right, cold. This is cold sci-fi-ville. This is the upper ultraviolet region. We can determine the feel by dialing up or down the color temperature in our cameras. And a little note here too, if you worry about, oh my, I shot it with the wrong color temperature, or I overexposed it because the colors seem washed out, or I underexposed it like a Gordon Willis movie, I didn't have enough light, we can fix these things in applications, editing applications now. Not totally fix them, but really adjust them. So some of these mistakes we make, we don't have to worry about them so much. A flat color, we can bump up the saturation. Bad lighting, we have tools that can subtract or add light to our shots. And finally, if we have those shaky hands, we have editing programs that will take the shake, stabilize the footage we shot. So there's a lot we can do in post that can help with our color selection and our shakiness of the shot, and that's what's wonderful about using computerized digital programs in our camera to help us get the color and the tone of what we want when we shoot.